Mm. Look. Look. The emergence of ATNV1. The official name came late. By the time the world had a name for the virus had already moved through. Farms, shelters, hospitals, airports, and cities. The first reports called it animal aggression. Then they called it drug psychosis. Then they called it a rabies variant. Listen. Then they called it social collapse. Hold on. Only after the first hospital wing went, wait, did the name become official? Amygdalothalamic neurotropic virus 15. ATNV 15. Most people never used that name. The public called it something simpler. The Gravitas Plague. Not because it was plague in the old sense. Listen. It was not the Black Death. It was not a bacterium. It did not move like the medieval stories. All right. It did not announce itself with swollen glands and certain death. The first samples came from a cave system in the southern hemisphere. Look. The site had no famous name. It was one of those places that existed on old maps as a line, then a gap, then a warning. Deep limestone chambers. Wait. Wet air. Mineral walls. Colonies of bats packed into the dark by the thousands. The expedition was routine on paper. A biosurveillance team had been sent to catalog unknown viruses in bat populations. It was the kind of work that sounded heroic in grant language. It was quieter than that. Stranger. Give me a second. Crueler. It did not always kill the body. Yeah, no. It changed what was left inside. The first samples came from a cave system in the southern hemisphere. The site had no famous name. It was one of those places that existed on old maps as a line, then a gap, then a warning. You know, deep limestone chambers, wet air, mineral walls, colonies of bats packed into the dark by the thousands. The expedition was routine on paper. A biosurveillance team had been sent to catalog unknown viruses in bat populations. You know, it was the kind of work that sounded heroic in grant language and reckless in hindsight. The scientists were not looking for disaster. They were looking for possibility. Future vaccines, future warnings, future papers. The modern world had learned to fear what it did not sequence. All right. So teams went deeper and deeper into places no one had any business disturbing. In the cave, the bats looked healthy. That was the first mistake. You heard? The animals were alert, responsive, normal. There were no mass die-offs, no visible lesions, no obvious sign that anything inside the colony had changed. But the sequencing data came back wrong. Not impossible. Wrong. The viral fragments did not match the expected families cleanly. They carried familiar shapes, familiar tricks, familiar protein behavior, but arranged in... It looked like a virus that had borrowed from several old playbooks, then learned a new target. The 15th isolate was the one that mattered. At first, it was just a line in a database. The sample was archived, flagged, and sent through the normal chain. Sample 15. Bat saliva, southern cave system. Unknown neurotropic profile. The sample was archived, flagged, and sent through the normal chain. The first lab note described it as having an unusual affinity for mammalian neural tissue. The second lab note used a phrase that should have stopped everything. Preferential activity near rapid thalamo-amygdala signaling pathways. You know, That phrase did not mean much to the public. It meant everything to the people who understood fear. The thalamus is one of the brain's great switching stations. It receives information from the senses and routes it forward. The amygdala is one of the brain's ancient threat detectors. It watches for danger before reason has time to speak. In a healthy person, those pathways help create the first instant of fear. The flinch before thought. The recoil before language. The animal warning that says, do not touch that. Do not go there. Do not stand still. Yeah, no. ATNV-15 did not simply inflame the brain. It did not just cause fever dreams or confusion. It appeared to attack the fast fear circuit itself. Let me think. The early theory was simple and horrifying. The virus did not create courage. It removed the brake. Fear did not disappear cleanly. It broke apart. The infected still reacted to sound, light, pain, motion, and hunger. But the normal hierarchy collapsed. A person could stare into an oncoming car without stepping away. A wounded animal could charge a fire. A patient could bite through their own tongue and keep moving. Give me a second. The infected did not become fearless in any noble sense. They became ungoverned. The first mammal cases outside the cave were dismissed. A ranch dog attacked its owner and ignored 2 broken legs. A fruit bat colony abandoned its normal roost and entered a town in daylight. Feral cats began fighting in alleys until they died of exhaustion. Livestock stopped retreating from noise, pain, or flame. The reports were scattered, local, and easy to explain away. Heat. Poison. Parasites. Drought. Human stupidity. Hold up. Then came the eyes. All right. In every species, the eyes changed before the behavior became impossible to ignore. Not always cataracts in the medical sense, but a cataract like haze. A milky film, a dull whitening that made the animal look half blind, even when it still tracked movement. Hunters described deer with ghost eyes. Shelter workers described dogs that stared through people. Nurses described patients who looked awake but unreachable.
Hold on.
The eyes became the first symbol of the Gravitas Plague.
You know,
Clouded. Reflective.
you know,
Wrong. Inside the infected brain, the decline seemed uneven. Language degraded early in humans. Not always at once. Some patients could speak in fragments for days. Others repeated phrases. Others answered questions with old memories that had nothing to do with the room they were in. One man kept asking for his mother while trying to claw through a glass door. One woman calmly recited a grocery list as she attacked an orderly.
all right.
Another patient sang half of a childhood song until her voice gave out. Doctors first assumed hallucination. Then psychosis. Then intoxication. That was the second great mistake. The first human clusters appeared among people society had already trained itself not to see. The unhoused, the addicted,
Hold on.
the undocumented, the isolated elderly, the people already living at the edge of hospitals, underpasses, shelters, detention centers, and emergency rooms. They were the first to be infected and the last to be believed.